Hello and welcome everyone to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. This is Nipasa Pradhan, and I hope you're having a very good day today, Wednesday, and happy to have you all. Before we start off with our episode today, I have this very important disclaimer that I need to read out, and that is by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. Once again, welcome, friends, to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. We're going to have a good time today. And wherever you've joined us from, whether on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, a very warm welcome. It's going to be a very intriguing session because we're going to be joined by our frequent guest. I would say every Wednesday we have her at 12 p.m. We make it a point to have her, and she is none other than Attorney Prashanthi Reddy. Please help me welcome her back to the show. How are you doing today, Prashanthi?
I'm good, thanks, Nipasa. How are you doing?
I'm also doing good. Very happy to see you. And yes, today's discussion is going to be about immigration impact under Biden and what changes if Trump returns. Well, we'll discuss a little bit about both Biden and Trump, and I know it's going to be a very interesting session. Are you excited about this today, Prashanthi?
Yeah, definitely. When the topic was suggested, I was like, this is really apt for this time of the year because people have to know, since elections are coming up, what to expect, what happened under Biden's administration, what happened previously under Trump's administration, and what to expect if Trump comes back this
Mhm.
year. So it's very important at this moment that you know people understand that.
Absolutely. And we are going to definitely discuss a lot about its impact on immigration. I mean, both the parties. So we will see from the immigration point of view today about what is going to happen and what might happen. We will discuss on this topic today, friends. And wherever you're watching us from, I'll just let you know that you can also ask your questions. We'll be here for almost an hour, and Prashanthi will be more than happy to be answering to your questions. So if you have any immigration related questions, especially under this topic, it'll be great to have your questions. And big hello to Shokat, Neha, Shetty. Thank you for joining us. And if you have questions, keep dropping them. We are going to, yes, they are watching us on LinkedIn and Facebook. So, hi to both of you. Thank you for joining. I'm really looking forward for a very insightful session today with none other than Attorney Prashanthi Reddy. All right. So, first up, Prashanthi, what would you like to say? I mean, what key immigration policy changes, maybe if President Biden is going to come, and what impact is it going to have on their families? What do you think?
So President Biden is presently, he is going to be running for re-election, as we know, and in the re-election in November, we don't know whether President Biden will come back or it'll be Trump.
Mhm.
So what we can discuss is what happened in with Biden with reference to immigration and what he did to change Trump's policies. In general, it should be noted that presently the Democratic Party is much more amenable to immigration and is more in favor of immigration, and the Republican Party is not. We have to start off with that one sentence, and that maybe tells it all. So, if you're interested in this immigration topic, and if this is of interest to you, then you know how you should cast your vote, depending on what your interest is with reference to immigration. You want immigration to stay as it is or expand, then you have to work. Then you have to support the Democratic Party. If you want immigration to be restricted, then you should definitely support the Republican Party. So, with reference to what has happened so far in Biden's administration,
Mhm.
um, we have to remember that he took over from Trump, where all the systems were kind of uh, all the systems with reference to immigration were disintegrated. Uh, all the positive, all the beneficial systems, and there
Mhm.
was a lot of restrictive immigration laws imposed, and a lot of restriction at the border, restriction at granting visas, restrictions with getting visa approvals at USCIS level. So um, it took a while for for the Biden's administration to dismantle all those restrictive measures and bring it back to, pre-COVID kind of rules, pre-Trump rules. So with
Mm-hmm.
reference to, first of all, to the border issues, um, there were obviously huge issues under Trump with reference to family separation. We saw children being separated from their parents, and then the parents and children losing track of each other because parents didn't know where the children were, and it was really a terrible situation. In addition
Mm-hmm.
to just completely abandoning the whole asylum law and granting
Mm-hmm.
asylum and refugee status, that all those, all that has been again brought back by Biden,
Mm-hmm.
what the laws are under the. Uh, I wouldn't say that he's completely brought back the borders to post pre-Trump, but he has realized that he is not completely open borders, so he has realized the limitations to how many people can come into the borders, and he has restricted it accordingly. For those
Mm-hmm.
who are, you know, people who are very liberal with reference to immigration and border control, that he obviously has not satisfied them, and neither has he satisfied uh, um, the restrictive immigration policy. So he's kind of somewhere in between, I
Well,
think, which is a happy place to be in.
yeah, the way like he's portrayed in the media, President Biden, do you think the media is accurate, or what is your perspective on his administration's impact, maybe?
Yes. So with reference to the southwest border, the administration, they changed their policy on border enforcement. They changed the policy on border enforcement, and they combined, different strategies so that there can be less people are trying coming to the border or trying to cross the border.
Mm-hmm.
They incentivized arrivals at port of entry, used stricter enforcement policies, to narrow access to asylum and to de-incentivize people from coming, first of all, to the border by,
Mm-hmm.
advertising that, it's very strict, enforcement is very strict, you will not get asylum easily, so don't come, rather than then coming here, and then and they,
Mm-hmm.
because people, in order to come to the US border, have to go through a lot of difficulties. They go through jungles, they go through deserts, a lot of lives are lost, they have to pay sharks, the brokers that bring them across these dangerous areas, tons of money, and often brokers itself cause them harm. These sharks, immigration sharks, cause them harm. So in order to de-incentivize them, to stop them from coming and making those dangerous journeys, he's done a bunch of things. He's as I said, he's also given at the country itself, he's given a few, a small number of visas, allowing them to come in legally, and they can apply for these visas at their country itself,
Mm-hmm.
for refugee and asylum visas at the country itself. It's a small number, but it's a start. So that's something that he has done. He's changed the strategy. Also, what he's done is, he's also included, as I said, there's a new approach. Um, and he's relied on other different countries. It's called a new hemispheric approach, and he's relied on partner countries such as, the border countries to the United States, Latin America, Caribbean, to slow the movement and accept returns of their citizens. So people mostly who come are from Latin America and
Mm-hmm.
from the Caribbean. So he's talked with those country heads to allow people who have left the country to come back seamlessly so that they don't get stuck in a state of limbo. Um, and he's created a region for safe mobility officers. He's created a whole department designed to provide migration pathways to a limited number of eligible migrants,
Right.
thus discouraging dangerous journeys, as I was just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what he's done is restarted the refugee resettlement program and expanded it. So
Mm-hmm.
people who have been granted refugee status, he is giving them a place to stay at so that they're not on the streets, right?
Mm-hmm.
um, Giving them work authorization so that they don't, choose a life of crime because they're not able to support themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So he has, um, included those kind of refugee resettlement programs. Um, and we've seen that post-pandemic legal immigration is, at a new high. Um, Compared to Trump and with COVID, all that legal immigration admissions into the United States was very, very low. The
Mm-hmm.
United States now in 2023, 1.2 immigrants, lawful permanent residents, green card holders, about 1.1 annual average if, um, you know, it's 1.2 now
Yes.
compared to, lower number previously. The State Department has issued about 10.4 million non-immigrant visas under Biden, the most since I think 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also, so you see that there is a huge increase in the number of visas issued,
Mm-hmm.
under Biden. So that's one thing.
Right.
Also, I think that that's some of few things that Biden has done. So just to reiterate, borders, he's secured the borders, he's de-incentivized people from coming. If they do come, he's established programs to resettle them. He has restored
Yes.
legal immigration, given more visas than were ever issued since 2015. So some of the few things that he's done.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. And what about what do you have to say about the handling of the economy, impacted especially by the job growth and the inflation that's have been happening, lately in the recent months?
I'm sorry, what is your question?
Like in the Joe Biden's administration's handling the economy, which has impacted job growth and
Oh,
even
we
inflation.
shouldn't, Nipasa,
Yeah,
we shouldn't talk
sorry.
about economy and inflation in this show because it's not immigration related. But
No, but I'm
we
asking
can
about the
talk
job
about
growth.
how people, yeah, job growth also. I mean, how it's impacted immigration. You mean? Is that what your question is?
Immigration, yes, right. With, I mean, keeping in mind immigration, of course, and the job growth. So, how do you think it is affecting? Like, of course, economy comes in the picture, but we can keep that aside. We can just concentrate on the immigration point of view.
So job growth, with reference to the economy, we all know what it is. Um, the economy is the at least the shares are doing phenomenally. We know that there's been an economic boom, and but there have been a lot of layoffs last year with reference to immigration. Maybe that's what you're talking about. And the layoffs are not to be attributed to any administration. Those are layoffs that have been done by companies. I would think that, and they go through a cycle of hiring and laying off people. There
True.
has been recession under Biden, and there has been inflation as well and last year, and he's been trying to control that. And how all this impacts immigration is that if there if there are a lot of people laid off, then
Hmm.
companies are not going to be filing a lot of H1s or new work visas for new people to come in because there are plenty of people available in the market as it is. So that's
Hmm.
we don't know whether that's true this year as well, but that was certainly true last year.
True, true. Anyway, let's move on from here, and let's check out like how have Biden's immigration policies differed from Trump's. Let's just check them both together, I think.
Um, so there have been lot of differences. As I said, Trump has been very restrictive with reference to his policies, and we can expect more of the same if he comes back. Um,
Mm-hmm.
with reference to the border,
Border control, yes.
um, Yeah, the border, building a border wall, that was big, Trump's big agenda, and he authorized about 5.8 billion dollars to build that wall.
Mm-hmm.
And the critics say that there is no purpose in building a physical wall and spending so much money. Other things need to be done in order to make the borders more secure. And building a wall
Right.
is not a practical solution because you can't build a wall. He wanted to build a wall across the entire border, which is not possible. So
Mm-hmm.
when Biden came, so basically Trump sanctioned a lot of money to do this and to build and construct the wall, and that seemed to gel well with his base because it was a very visible. Oh, I'm going to build a physical wall. Uh,
Physical wall.
it was something that is visible for people to see, and the other programs are not so visible. So this was an easier thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Biden is continuing to build the wall, but on a much, much smaller scale. He's only going to be building 20 miles of physical barriers across the US Mexico border where they think it's needed. And in with reference to other ways of trying to secure the border, he's doing other things, as I just mentioned. With
Right.
reference to ICE, so ICE is the enforcement wing of USCIS, of the Department of Homeland Security, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And with reference to ICE, Trump issued an executive order which established a new, more aggressive enforcement regime within the United States. So, what he did is basically he expanded the categories of people that could be deported, and he kind of went after a lot of illegal. He tried to go after a lot of people who were illegal, not just
Mm-hmm.
people who were convicted of serious crimes, but many others as well. So, it is impossible to deport all illegal people in the United States. uh, Simply impossible because there are millions of illegal immigrants in the US. So doing that doesn't make sense in my point of view. So when Biden came in, he rescinded that order. And right now, the way things stand is he's prioritizing the people that he wants to deport. The administration wants to deport. They deport people who have committed serious crimes and
Mm-hmm.
who are harmful to the U.S. society in general. So those are the people he is prioritizing to deport, and for the other people who are just illegal and have not committed any crime, they are not a priority anymore, especially if they are older. So he has certain priorities with reference to who to deport and who not to. With reference
Right.
to detention of pregnant women, Biden issued a directive um, called 11032, which outlined procedures on how to identify, monitor, track, and house pregnant detainees. And between 2017 and 2018, the number of detentions for pregnant women increased from 1,000 to 2,000, like more than doubled. So under
Mm-hmm.
Biden's administration, as it was even before, um, ICE should not detain, arrest, or take into custody individuals known to be pregnant or post-pregnant or nursing. So that's brought back, and if Trump comes, most probably pregnant women will be detained again. Um, Another important policy is the zero tolerance policy,
Mm-hmm.
which requires U.S. Attorney's Office along the Mexico border, U.S. Mexico border to criminally prosecute all illegal immigration cases referred to them by USCIS. Trump used this zero tolerance policy to separate migrant children from their parents at the border. So what Trump did is pretty much he made uh, violation of immigration laws into a criminal violation, whereby people could be arrested and jailed, etc. That was never immigration policy. It is never considered to be a crime in the sense of an actual crime. It was an immigration
Mm-hmm.
crime, not an actual crime. So you could not be actually put into regular jails. You can be put into detention facilities, which are not the same as where criminals are put, right? So
Right.
this zero tolerance policy went into also, their how they adjudicated USCIS cases
Hmm.
with reference to benefits. Even if there was a small error or some small issue, they would deny the case. So Biden brought that, but rescinded that, pretty much that zero tolerance policy, and now it's a more common sense policy where benefits are given, uh, enforcement action is taken on a case by case basis.
Right.
Again, coming back to the family separation, this was something that was really Trump was criticized for this family separation policy, where accompanied. So basically, family separation is um, at the border. Migrant children at the border were treated as unaccompanied alien children, and they were placed into custody. Um, Even if they were traveling with their parents, they were separated, and they were placed into custody separately.
Hmm.
So there was a different facility. So all the children were put together in a different facility behind bars. Really, it was like the pictures that we saw were horrendous. That they were put into cells. Really, even babies, newborn babies, were separated from their parents. Right. So that is also not a common sense policy, because what are you going to do with all those children? Who are you going to take? Who's going to take care of them? So that
Right.
was. um, you know, finally he started it, and then he terminated it in June of 2018 after a lot of criticism that he faced. Um, Biden has now established a task force to reunification of those children, because a lot of children and parents have been separated, and they are not able to find each other because the parents don't know where the children were taken, and the parents have moved to different places. So even USCIS and those agencies are not able to reunite the children with their parents that easily. So they've established a task force to allow them to do that.
Mhm.
So um, expansion of the removal, expedited removal. So DHS is allowed to quickly deport migrants without even allowing them to present their case before an immigration judge. This was started by Trump, um, and that was rescinded really by Biden. Um,
Okay.
the other important thing is the public health emergency order, which is called Title 42. So
Hmm.
under Trump's administration, anyone can be stopped at the border. In fact, people that were coming into the country legally also could be stopped based on health
Right.
grounds under the COVID regulations, and that was, of course, rescinded, and COVID was over after that, so it was rescinded by Biden.
Right.
Um, Also, extreme vetting, so looking into a series of background and security checks on refugee applicants that you know then resulted in the less number of refugees being able to enter into the country. It was so extreme that it was again nonsensical and didn't make it was not common sense driven. So that was terminated by Biden as well.
Hmm.
Um, Also, I'm just trying to go through my notes. Legal immigration. There's a big. We need to talk about that. Travel bans were constituted by the Trump administration. So even legally, people who had visas were not allowed into the country, as I was saying, for health reasons.
Yes.
And also, after that, people from Muslim countries were not allowed. From Iran, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Sudan, Libya, and Somalia were not allowed
Hmm.
into the country, period. The Biden administration, of course, ended that discriminatory policy.
Right.
DACA is protection from deportation of dreamers. That is, children who came here, did their high school here, and who now are perhaps adults, but became out of status for no reason, that nothing that they did.
Hmm.
They are called DACA, and DACA has been a big issue even before Trump. But Trump completely stopped DACA. Then there was a lot of court cases that were filed. under the Trump administration and the Biden administration. Pretty much now, as it goes, U.S. District Court, as of September 2023, has blocked DACA. So it's been bad under Trump. Biden tried to revive it, but he was not able to because the court stopped it. So that's the story with reference to DACA. With reference to expanded public charge vetting, this is again for legal immigration. So people who are filing for green card, um, a public charge is defined. A public charge is a person who is likely to become primarily dependent on the government for subsistence. So this is basically an economical thing. Anybody who filed for a green card, if you're filing an I-140 based or family based petition, he expanded that whole public charge regulation. Even before that, there was a public charge regulation whereby if you are likely to become a burden on the government financially, then you won't get a green card. But he expanded the definition of it, and he made many people uh, eligible to become a public charge. So he said that you should consider anyone to be a public charge basis on health, age, family status, assets, resources, educational skills, etc. So he expanded that, and Biden uh, again reverted it back to pre-Trump era, which there was a public charge, but more in a common sense way. It was decided in a common sense way. If you had a sponsor that was agreed to take care of you financially while you're in the United States, or if you have a
Mhm.
job, then you will not be considered to be a public charge.
Okay.
Um, Also, during COVID time, um, there were many other changes to legal immigration. Trump cut legal immigration in the United States by 50%. Nobody actually knows this, but by roughly 50% via executive action, Trump suspended the issuance of um, employment-based permanent immigrant visas, as well as non-immigrant visas. So these are EB1, EB2, all the EB1, EB2, EB3, EB4 categories, H1, L, J, F1s, everything was, and the dependents as well. Everything, all the visas were cut by 50%. By contrast, Biden has, in his last 4 years, has expanded legal immigration, again
Mhm.
via executive action. And we can go into that further in our next question with reference to what was done. But his, Trump's travel ban was the reason why, and also um, he basically his administration
Mhm.
gave directions to USCIS to vet cases, to become more stricter with reference to issuing H1B petition approvals. So all that had happened under him, and that's why I think legal immigration decreased by 50%.
True.
So those are some of the things that happened, or the contrast between the Trump and the Biden administration.
Right, right. We've already spoken a lot about the differences, but do you want to also talk about the most significant immigration policies, of Trump's administration that continue to impact the U.S. even today?
Yeah, so with reference to his policies, um, what we should keep in mind is that, as I was saying, that he decreased legal immigration by more than 50%. And this basically what happens when um, you know you have restrictive immigration policies. Companies are not able to hire people, so their U.S. firms are basically setting up offices abroad, and they're hiring people abroad. So this
Right.
is a huge deterrent to the economy, um, and this basically means that this is an unintended consequence. They are just politicizing immigration, and because of these immigration restrictions, there's been a huge movement of jobs and talent abroad, and this has major implications to the U.S. Ability to remain competitive. So that's what happened under Biden's administration. A lot of jobs moved out of the US, and a lot of the economy moved out because people were not available to take those jobs here in the US. So
Mhm.
they moved the entire project outside the country and got it done so there's no tax dollars that then are available, because otherwise those tax dollars would have been available in so many ways that the economy would have been improved if those jobs remained in the US. Not just with reference to tax, with reference to infrastructure, with reference to real estate. Everything has been impacted. Now, recently, there's been a Supreme Court decision um, with which impacts immigration positively. It's the Relentless Inc. versus Department of Commerce, where I mean, and there's another case, Loper Bright Enterprise versus Raimondo. In both cases, there was a old Chevron case, and in this Chevron case, difference was given to administrative officers to decide, and interpret the laws. The wide berth of difference was given to them, so they were able to interpret the laws the way they wanted it. So that ability to interpret um, of the federal agencies to interpret the law has been removed with this new law that has come up. This is, of course, not attributed to Trump or Biden. It's the judiciary that should be commended for it. But moving forward, maybe if Trump comes into power again, he can file another lawsuit, and maybe that difference will, be reversed again, and
Mhm.
administrative agencies will then be given more powers to interpret the laws. Um, so with immigration especially, that's very important, because the USCIS, often when the laws are, there's a gray area, or when the laws have not been defined, and in immigration law, 70% of the laws are not written properly. So a lot of it is left
Mhm.
up to interpretation. So if that is allowed, then that could be a big setback for legal immigration as well. Also under Trump, um, he used something called 212F to suspend entry of legal immigrants to the US, right? And this was done using the excuse of COVID-19. But it makes no sense to, stop everybody from coming into the US based on COVID-19. It has to be done on a case by case basis based on testing, etc. So that rule was removed by Trump. 212F has been removed. So that's a good thing, and people are now being allowed into the country.
Absolutely. I mean, that was pretty long of a discussion, and we have been discussing about Biden and Trump's administrations, especially keeping in mind immigration policies in the United States. And friends, thank you so much for all your questions. I can see so many of you all sending us your questions. Very happy to see them, and I'm also happy to tell you that we will be taking them up. But for now, we'll just go for a short break. But before we go for the break, I just wanted to tell you that you can even contact attorney Prashanthi Reddy directly, and her details are like you can call her in the call her in her number 212-354-1010. Once again, I repeat, 212-354-1010. That is Prashanthi Reddy's telephone number. You can even email her, and her email ID is prashanthi at reddyesq.com. You can even get to know more about her on www.reddyesq.com. And folks, thank you so much once again for your questions. Just stay with us here on Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. This is Nipasa Pradhan. We'll just go for a short break. Stay tuned. Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for U.S. citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry, exceptional employee benefits, highly rated by our employees, global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408 335 6444 or mail us at
Nipa at highrightypeople.com or visit our website www.highrightypeople.com.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. This is the second half of the webinar we're having today with none other than Attorney Prashanthi Reddy. And today we are discussing about immigration impact under Biden and what changes if Trump returns. Of course, we have been discussing a lot about it, and we've compared Biden's administration with Trump's policies and the immigration changes that we are facing and we could face. Thank you so much, Prashanthi. So far, so good. The discussion has been very deep. I hope you're excited to answer all these questions. So many folks out there have questions, for us. So, yeah, let's take up a few. And I think this first one should be from Karishma. Karishma on YouTube is asking, what measures has the Biden administration taken to facilitate family reunification for immigrants, and how might these measures be altered under a Trump administration?
So, with reference to family reunification, the fact that they have opened up the consulates for business really helps with family reunification, because under the Trump administration, visas were not being issued. And so if
Mhm.
they were dependents, they would not be able to come into the country. If the dependents were stuck in the US and the primary applicants were outside the country, they were stuck because the visas were not being granted under 212F. Um, so under the present administration, all those laws have been rescinded, and it's back to business as usual. Also, with reference, also because of modernization and under the present government, they've modernized the visa issuance and the immigration systems.
Mhm.
They've been able to issue a high amount of visas, and even though there's still a backlog for some B2 to get an appointment for some of the visas, they are trying hard to uh, remove that backlog, because that backlog is from the COVID era and during the Trump era. There was so
True.
much of a backlog that was created because visas were not issued. So they're trying to remove that backlog by increasing the types of applications that can be filed online. First of all, this is
Yes.
with reference to USCIS cases, and now with H's being filed online, you can actually get a receipt, the same day. And processing times also have improved with online filings. Having remote hearings on many cases where the judges are allowed to have remote cases, that is allowed them to take up more cases, and easily have hearings, and also has allowed people to be able to stay where they are and not having those long commutes to the courtrooms and back, depending on where they're living. They've
True.
also waived interviews, right? The present administration has waived the interview process for all non-immigrant visas, which are extensions. So you don't have to go for an interview anymore if you're filing for an extension of your
Mhm.
visa. Also, the validity periods under Trump administration, H's were given only for 1 year, sometimes for less than 1 year, because they were so restrictive. Now, under the Biden policy, they're giving for the entire 3 years, so you don't have to keep going to the USCIS and applying
For renewal.
for a visa. So that has also helped improve the immigration system, and also improve family unity as well.
True.
I mean, having said all this, USCIS is not ideal. I mean, even previously, before Trump, they were not under any administration. There are
Mhm.
enormous backlogs and wait times that sometimes stretch for years. in part due to the you know the green card backlog. It's reached about 7.6 million. Um, and because there is this limited number of green cards available, and USCI and India especially is oversubscribed because they have
Hmm.
7% for every country. That has
Yes.
really increased the backlogs, and unfortunately, no one, neither the Democrats nor the Republicans, have been able to pass any meaningful law because then nobody has had the majority, and they can't really do this as an executive order. So
Hmm.
those problems still remain. What they can do within the system or within by using an executive order, I think they are trying to do. I think, but much more can be done even by the present government. They've also, in order to curb fraud,
Hmm.
they've changed the lottery process as well, and they've made it beneficiary centric with reference to the H1Bs. Now there is you cannot, even if you apply for multiple registrations under the lottery, there's no incentive to do so because you'll only be counted towards the lottery cap once. So they've made those changes and made the H1B registration process better. Um, there's also a pilot program which they're going to implement, which will allow visas to be revalidated within the country so that when you're filing for a visa extension, you don't have to go outside the country to get the visa extension. You can do it within the United States by sending your passport to the Department of State. They've started this program in a small way. They've done that for 20,000 applicants in January. We're hoping to see more of that. So these are the few ways that the present government has tried to improve the immigration system and thereby also improving family unity. As I've said before, the separation of families, they've created a task force to allow a family unity there as well with reference to refugees and asylees. So let's see what happens.
Let's
But
just be.
definitely, if the new government comes in, all these policies will be reversed. That's for sure.
It's going to be difficult again for immigrants, I think. What do you
Yes.
think, and who would you support? I mean, as far as I mean, with reference to immigration, I mean, it should be comfortable for immigrants because there are so many people out there who are from so many different countries all over the world, and we just hope that it's not going to be too difficult for them later.
Right.
All right, let's
So,
move on.
I mean, I would think, Nipasa, that it depends on what your priorities are. If immigration is your priority, and I'm an immigration attorney, so obviously that's my priority. So I would support
Yes,
any government that supports immigration. So,
immigration, right?
I mean, exactly.
You're right. And I think so is for folks out there who are watching us, who are all immigration enthusiasts. So I'm sure you're looking for a government who will support your and support your immigration or maybe your plans for migrating to the US, immigrating to the US. Sorry. So yes, let's move on to the next question we have for you. And this is also on YouTube from Choi. Choi Beckett is asking, will Trump becoming president make it harder to get B1, B2 visa?
Yes, it'll become harder for everything and everybody, anything immigration related,
Yes.
because then what the government does is they open and close the doors, right, as per what their policies are or what the politics are. So, and they have the ability to do this. And they often do this, though they cannot change the actual what the law is. So they cannot change the criteria for what, for example, who qualifies for a B2 and who doesn't, right?
Hmm.
But there is a lot of discretionary authority that the immigration departments have, whether it be the Department of State, the Department of Labor, USCIS, and they will use that discretionary authority to close the gates if a government comes in that is anti-immigration, like that wants to restrict immigration. So definitely it'll become harder to get a B1 or a B2 visa under such a government.
Hmm. All right, Choi, thank you for your question. If you have more questions, we are here for some more time. You can keep asking. And let's move on now to another question from our folks out there. So this one is Chaitanya, also on YouTube. He's asking, do Canadian passport holders who were born in India and currently residing in Canada need to attend interview at consulate for the first time, H1B stamping after I-129 approval?
Yes, anyone. You don't. It doesn't matter whether you're a Canadian national, an Indian national, where you're living. The law is the same for everyone. You have to go to the consulate for a visa if you have filed for a H1 and you have an approval.
All the best, Chaitanya, if you are going for an interview. I hope you crack it. This next one is from Rajesh, also on YouTube. I had H1B stamped in January 2023, didn't travel to US. Now the employer wants to cancel my H1B petition. I need to go with another employer in 2025. Do we need to go for the lottery again, or can I apply?
Well,
And there's
under
a
the
kind.
present government, you can apply. Because they're being very liberal with reference to who is cap exempt and who is not. But as I
Mhm.
said, if there is a change and the change in the way USCIS views these things, they have discretionary authority to say that you're not cap exempt. But as of now, yes, you are cap exempt, and you can apply for another H1 through another employer, and then go for a visa again.
Yes, there's a continuation. Rajesh was asking, can I apply for the petition without a lottery system? Please advise.
Yeah, we I think we already responded that he can.
Okay, okay, great. Let's move on to the next question then. This is from Faris. Who do you support? A. Trump's strict immigration policies. B. Biden's humanitarian approach to refugee administrations and asylum protections. Oh, that's it. Sorry. So A or B?
This is a personal question. I think I don't. I already, to the extent that I could say what I support as an immigration attorney. That's up to you. That you can have a poll among all the audience as to what they support. I would support common sense immigration policy,
Hmm.
which neither allows people in without properly vetting them, and at
Hmm.
the same time is not too restrictive that people that are required in the US are not allowed to come in, and which affects the US economy. So common sense approach is something that always has to be supported. And for sure, a humanitarian approach, they are not strict immigration policies, and humanitarian approach are not necessarily two things that are opposites of each other. Both can be done. Within the framework of the US immigration laws, you should
Hmm.
have you should they are asylum um, laws, they are refugee resettlement laws, and you should allow people who are who deserve to be allowed. The deserving should be allowed into the country under the framework of the laws. So
Hmm.
I don't think two are mutually exclusive. Both can be done in a
Right.
common sense way. So yeah.
Right. It should be fair and square for everyone, I think, and nobody should be like a win-win for everyone, as far as everyone is on the right track. Yes. All right, so let's move on to another question now. This next one is from Mayuka. What impact have Biden's policies had on dreamers' access to education?
None actually, because the issue with Dreamers has gone to court. So no one has the ability to change that, no government, unless they file another lawsuit. Right
Mhm.
now, as what I was saying is that the district court has suspended DACA. So Biden has not had any impact, positive or negative,
Mhm.
because of the court case.
Right. All right. So let's see. Well, um, This next one, this is from Raul on YouTube. How would an American first approach shape immigration policy decisions? And what impact would this have on global relations and migration patterns?
This is a very, very long question, whoever posted it. Um, and I think we've discussed
A little
all
bit.
this to a certain extent, but I will in short, try to say whatever I can in given the time constraint. This is actually good for a thesis. We can have a whole thesis
One
on
whole
this
episode
because
on
there's so
this.
much to say with reference to this. A whole episode, a whole thesis can be written, a book can be written, in fact. Rahul, thank you for your question. We'll try and answer it to the best extent possible. So, what would an immigration first approach shape? How would an immigration first approach shape immigration
American,
policy decisions?
America first.
Uh, America first approach shape immigration policy decisions. America first pretty much means that um, you are putting America first. So you're not you care more about that the people you're giving priority to the people who are already existing in the United States, who are already here, rather than giving preference to um, say people who haven't come to the US as yet. Um, Also, you're giving preference to domestic policy with rather than your international policy. And that is not an immigration related topic, so I won't get into that. But that can have a huge impact because then America is isolating itself from the rest of the world,
Mhm.
and that cannot be good for business, or it cannot be good for politics or anything, right? With reference to how America First approach impacts immigration, it doesn't necessarily have to have a negative impact because um, allowing fair immigration or allowing common sense immigration actually improves the United States economy. And we've seen that, and there are many, many papers and research that's been written on that. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you are disadvantaging in any way people who are already living in America. That's a wrong rhetoric that sometimes people, anti-immigration people, try to push forward. Um, we've seen that the immigration has helped the US economy. We've seen that the jobs that are being filled by immigrants uh, are usually US citizens and permanent residents are not available to fill those jobs. They're either not qualified or they don't want to do those jobs. And that's why, it's a boost to the economy. And that's why we see that the jobs actually leave the country when those immigrants are not available to do those jobs,
Mhm.
right? So I don't think um, it affects the America First policy. Common sense immigration will in fact help America First policy.
For sure, that's for sure. Raul, thanks for your question. And like Prashanthi said earlier, it's such a huge topic. I still hope that you got your answer. And well, yeah, let's move on to this next one. This is from Zoya, also on YouTube. How has the Biden administration's focus on family reunification impacted immigrant communities in the United States? I think we
I
covered a
think we
bit of
already
this.
answered this. We
Yes,
already
yes.
answered this. Exact
Yes,
same
that is a
question.
similar
Yeah.
question, yes, to Karishma's question. Thank you so much, Zoya, as well, for your question. Well, what do you think is going to happen, Prashanthi? What do you have to say about today's topic? Before we wrap up today's show, and folks out there, maybe leave them with a thought.
Yeah, we still have a little time, right, to take one or two more questions, Nipasa?
Yes, we do. So, okay, this is from Riz on YouTube. I'm Australian citizen applying for E3 visa, and my spouse, who is Indian passport holder, has can can she get E3 dependent visa during the application process? Please advise.
Oh, good
Thanks.
question. Good question. And I don't think so, but I can look it up and let you know, but I don't think so. You have to, in order to apply for a E3, you have to be an Australian citizen. And so the E3 dependent is the same. You have to qualify, right? So you can't have an Indian
Mhm.
passport because then you won't qualify for the E3S, which is the dependent status either.
Mhm.
But, if I will look it up again. 99%, I don't think you qualify.
Thank you for your question. I would say, Riz, and if you have more questions, you can keep commenting. Let's take a couple more. We still have about 5 more minutes. So this is from Durgeshwar. What steps has Biden taken to support the education of undocumented students, and how might these steps be rolled back by Trump?
He has forgiven student loans, but that is for not necessarily for anything to do with immigration. Um, so students can study whether you're documented or not. You can study. They don't ask for your status. Schools don't ask for
Mhm.
your status. Um, so I don't think Biden had to do much with reference to that. But if Trump comes in and he says that universities, so to go into higher studies, that universities need to first make sure that they're in status. If he changes the rules, then obviously no one who is undocumented can go to college. So
Mhm.
that's a scary part. And Trump, the rhetoric, what he's been saying in his election campaign speeches, I wouldn't be surprised if he did that.
Well, Durgeshwar, I hope you got your answer. All right, let's move on to this next one. This one is from Venkateshwar. Who do you think will better support high skilled workers and the tech industry through H1B visa policies? Trump's administration, which has implemented stricter H1B regulations and limits, automatic green cards to foreign students who graduate from US colleges, or Biden's administration which has proposed reforms to attract and retain top talent.
I think Venkateshwar, you've answered your question um, in your question itself,
Yes.
and it seems pretty apparent from our discussion and what I've told you, and from your question also, that the Biden administration is definitely are more pro H1B,
Mhm.
and when we're talking specifically about H1, the Trump administration, as I was saying, the number of RFEs and denials under the Trump administration was, I think, 20% for new H1s and about 12% for existing H1s. Under the Biden administration, it has been about 2%, and that's the common actually denial rate. Even
But
before that, I would
Trump is
expect.
giving green cards, to college graduates upon graduation if they fare really well.
No, he's not, and he's not. He cannot do that unless he passes a law in Congress, right? So people
Right.
can say whatever they want to, and he says different things at
Before the
different
elections,
times.
people can say anything they want.
No, no. No, I mean, especially Trump, because he's not known to keep his word. So people can say different things at different times. But the very fact that he's saying something, he will do something that is not within his power to do, shows how shallow what he has said is. It's not within his power to make that change. That change has to come by a vote in the Congress.
Right.
President is not allowed to make those and make that decision and make that change. That's
Mhm,
not how the law
mhm.
works.
Right. Right. Anyway, thank you so much, Venkateshwar, for your question, and also Prashanthi for taking that up. And yes, so I hope you got your answer. Let's move on. This next one is from Mag. What specific immigration policies or actions taken by the Biden administration have had the most significant impact the life or community? And how do you think a potential Trump return to office, is it complete, might affect these policies and your experiences?
I think we already answered Meg's question. So let's take another question which we haven't answered. So because we're running out of time.
Shraddha, how might Trump's return impact US diplomatic relations with countries affected by his previous travel ban policies? Travel ban policies.
Uh, How might Trump's return impact U.S. diplomat countries? He doesn't care really, so it doesn't matter how it impacts it. Definitely, I mean, U.S. diplomatic relations, I mean, with these countries are anyway at an all-time low because these were
Hmm.
the specific Iran and, all these other countries, which the Muslim countries, they're already at an all-time low, so it can't get any worse if there is a travel ban back.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Shraddha, for your question. I think we should wrap up. But before we wrap up, Prashanthi, I really want you to leave all our folks out there with a thought, after the discussion we had on today's topic. Um, what do you have to say? Maybe a short message before we leave.
I think comprehensive immigration reform is required in many, many areas, and it has not been done. The last Immigration Act was in the 1980s, the Immigration and Nationality Act. Since then, there's been no real immigration laws passed. So I think both parties should come together and have a bipartisan, pass laws in a
Mhm.
bipartisan fashion. Again, common sense humanitarian laws that will help the U.S. economy. So the onus is on both parties to do this, and it's not
Mhm.
being done because of the infighting among them.
So true. Very well said, Prashanthi. Thank you so much for that end note as well. And I would say thank you, really. It was a very different session. I mean, normally we're really strict and very engrossed with our immigration. Of course, today we spoke based on immigration, but also on the upcoming election. So we just had a sneak peek from the immigration point of view of how it might, impact, Biden's administration or Trump's policies as well. So, thank you so much for being a part of this today, Prashanthi, and thank you for sharing these insightful thoughts and um, messages you had for us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Prashanthi. Have a great day ahead, and I hope to see you in the coming week again.
Yes, next Wednesday with an equally interesting topic.
Absolutely, for sure. So thank you once again. And folks, you can contact Attorney Prashanthi directly. Her number is displayed on the screen if you have any questions related to immigration and you need to consult an attorney. Definitely give her a call. Her number is 212-354-1010. You can even email her at prashanthi at readyesq.com and visit a website, readyesq.com. Thank you, Prashanthi.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks, also for joining us today. It was a great session, a very interesting one, and so much to discuss. I know one episode may not be enough, but we definitely have so much more to talk about. I hope this was interesting enough. And if you're watching this after the stream has ended, you can still ask your questions. I mean, we have our experts who would be more than happy to answer to you. So, anything related to the topic or anything related to immigration, feel free to drop your questions in the comments and we'll be happy to answer. And I'd like to say that if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and yes, you will be updated whenever we have interesting discussions like these or very important immigration updates or job related updates for you. And thank you so much. And if you are also looking for a project placement, looking for green cards, definitely reach out to us as well. My phone number is also displayed on the screen. My number is 408-335-6444. You can email me. My email address is nipa@higheritpeople.com. And to get to know more about us, check us out. Our website is www.higheritpeople.com. And I would also like to say that there's good news for you Telugu speakers out there because we are going to come up with Telugu channel of Immigration and Jobs Talk Show Telugu, and it's going to be very interesting. Whatever we've been discussing here in English, we are going to discuss that in Telugu as well. So it's going to be very interesting. We're going to have discussions like these and also news in Telugu. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for today. You have a great Wednesday ahead, and I hope to see you soon. Yes, on our channel. Thank you for tuning in today. This is Nipasa Pradhan signing off for now. Keep watching.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408-335-6444 or mail us at nipa@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www